Good morning! Today we're going to make gluten-free bread. It's also vegan, so there's an added plus. And a lot of people get really worried about trying to make bread, especially gluten-free. They think it's going to be complicated. But really, gluten-free bread is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Here's the first step. You start with 1½ cups of warm water, and you add 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1 tablespoon of yeast. And you can tell within a few minutes if your water was warm enough, because very quickly you see a lovely bubbly layer forming on the yeast water. That means the yeast is alive and growing. I use Fleischmann's yeast because it always works, and I use organic sugar because most of the commercial sugar on the market today comes from genetically modified sugar beets, and I don't like to take in any genetically modified foods. I figure my body is sacred to me. I'm going to use the good stuff. Now step 2. You start with 1/3 cup of water, and you add 2 tablespoons of ground flax. Ground flax is an egg replacer. It gives a very viscous, wonderful fluid that helps bind the flours together. To that, you're going to add a tablespoon of coconut oil and a teaspoon of Bragg's apple cider vinegar. Wonderful stuff. Let that sit. And now step 3. In your food processor, you're going to put all your flours and dry ingredients. If you don't have a food processor, you can use a large bowl and a hand mixer. I start with 1½ cups of Bob's Red Mill gluten-free baking powder. It's wonderful. Bob's is very, very careful about keeping their ingredients truly gluten-free. This flour is made mostly from different kinds of bean flours, but it doesn't taste beany. To that, I add 1/2 cup of coconut flour. This gives the bread a nice, moist quality. It's so good that kids will even eat it for lunch with their sandwiches. And then I add 1/2 cup of rice flour. The rice flour mixes with the bean flours and gives the bread a higher protein content, so it's more nutritious. You're also going to add a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is nice and elastic. It gives the bread a nice doughy quality. Then I'm going to get my pans ready. I have a beautiful bread pan. This is a meal en wheat, and it is made from French clay. It is an exquisite bread pan. But I bake all my family's bread, so I deserve a good bread pan. If you're just getting started in bread baking, you could start with just a simple glass pan. Please don't ever use non-stick or aluminum cookware. It's very, very dangerous for your health. All right, I'm going to mix up the dry ingredients. Oh, look at them go. Woo! When you can see that they're well mixed, you can stop. Oh, look how much the yeast has grown. Combine your wet ingredients. Whoop! Give it a good stir. Then start running the processor. And through the top, you're going to add your wet ingredients slowly. Give it a few minutes and the dough will form a big ball, which is already starting. The container is getting swept clean. Once the dough forms the ball, let it run a few more minutes. And there you have it. The bread dough is not at all like a regular yeast bread dough. We don't need it. It's very sticky, which is part of the fun. Transfer the dough to your loaf pan. This is a part the kids love to do, but if you get your hands wet, if they get their hands wet first, they won't make such a mess all around the kitchen. Get all the good stuff off the dough beater. Pat the dough down nicely in the pan. And you don't have to get it perfect, because one of the charms of a homemade loaf is that it's a little uneven and a little irregular. That makes it real. And you're going to let the bread rise for about ½ an hour, and then we'll bake it at 350 for about 35 to 45 minutes. It will fall a lot during the baking, but I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Wow, Doesn't this look great? See how much it rose? It's really light and wonderful. Now it's going to fall a lot during the baking, but that's okay. It's still going to be delicious. So, into the oven. It's preheated to 350. Slide it right in the middle and let the baby rest. We'll see you in a half hour when the bread's done. That bread smells great. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it's beautiful. All right, so let's get out this gorgeous loaf of bread. See, it fell a little bit, but oh, look at the color. Now, we're going to let it cool for about 10 minutes, then we'll be able to take it out of the pan. And I'll show you a special trick to make it extra yummy. And now the moment we've been waiting for, it's almost ready to eat. I like a soft crust on my bread, so I like to take a little bit of coconut oil and just rub it on the crust the way you might use butter. But since this is a vegan recipe and heart healthy, we want to use a healthy oil. So it gives it a nice, tender crust, and it has the added benefit of a really rich flavor. Coconut oil is also really good for your skin, so don't worry about getting it all over. All right, let's see how it looks inside. This is a beautiful loaf. You can see it's just gorgeous. Time for some homemade bread and apple butter, which we'll do another day, and a cup of tea. Have a great one. What you got cooking?